Welcome to the Darkstream. I'm VoxDay, voxday.blogspot.com, and I don't really have anything serious to talk about tonight. I've been doing a lot of editing. Actually, it's a pretty old shirt, but yeah, different, not one of the usual t-shirts. It's kind of chilly out today. I had to get up early. Hello, California! You're welcome. I'm really happy that that Infogalactic News is so popular. I think we had 100,000 page views the first 5 days, which is pretty awesome. New York and Georgia, nice. Hello from Italia. Yeah, that whole proudly made in America by immigrants thing cracks me up. It's like, yes, we're going to somehow shame you into sabotaging your society and culture because you like our little app. It's just ridiculous. I would have thought the books make me look studious, but you know, c'est la vie. Yeah, so I've been busy the last 2 days. How many of you are how many of you are Castalia House new release subscribers? I'm curious. Anybody? Do you even know what it is? Yeah, what the new release, okay, you may be aware that I'm the lead editor of Castalia House. We've just made some changes to the website. We just hit 1 million views at Castalia House, which is fantastic, so congratulations to Jeffro Johnson. And the reason that you might want to, it's not a mock turtleneck, dude, it's an actual turtleneck. Anyhow, we have a new book coming out tomorrow, and so I just figured it's a good time to remind everybody, you might want to sign up for the new release mailing list. We've got thousands of people on it, and the advantage is that when we send out, we only email people when we have a new release. In fact, we don't even email about all of our new releases, just basically usually the ebooks. And so, look, don't let me know about your personal audio and video situation, okay? I can't do anything about it, neither can anyone else. It's just distracting. I mean, I'm sorry if you're having issues, but I can't do anything about it. So to subscribe, you can go to castaliahouse.com, and if you look on the right sidebar, you'll see that all you need to do is put in your email and hit subscribe. Very simple. I'll get to that question in a minute. The reason that you might be interested in subscribing to the new release mailing list is because what we do is every time we release a new book, we email you to let you know that it's out. And what we also add a link to a existing book, ebook, that and the deal is basically it's an honor system. We have a link that goes directly to the ebook, and if you buy the new release within 2 days, we give you a little time just in case you don't get the email right away, then you have our permission to download that additional book. So basically, anytime you buy a Castalia House book on release, or within a day or two of release, you'll almost always get a second book free. Now sometimes it doesn't work because sometimes the book that we are giving out free is one that you already have, or maybe it's one that we've given out free before. But yeah, it's essentially a 2 books for 1 deal every single time. So there are, and it's not always just our books. We have some. A lot of friends who are authors who are either self-published or who publish with other publishers, and they always we get permission from them, and then we sometimes give away their books instead. It's just a good way to sort of get introduced to new authors that maybe you like, and you can try them out without any penalty. So, sinister. Okay. I guess tonight we're talking about Castalia. It wasn't really we have this new book coming out tomorrow. It's very cool. We're going to announce it. It's called 6 Expressions of Death. It's an ebook by a new author named Mojo Mori. and it's set in it's a murder mystery thriller set in 16th century Japan, but it's not necessarily actual Sengoku Japan. It's more Japan the way that the Japanese at the time believed it to be. So the Japanese actually believe in the kami and in the supernatural powers of the shinobi and all that sort of thing. It's pretty cool. I lived in Tokyo myself for 6 months, and I studied the Japanese language for several years. And it's nothing at all like the 5 love languages. So 6 expressions of death, Mojo Mori. We're going to be sending out the announcement tomorrow morning. The book deal does work. Well, you can't order the physical paperback in this case because it doesn't exist. Now, when we do have regular announcements of print books. For example, tonight we just submitted my new collection of columns. We just published that a few weeks ago in ebook. It's called Innocence and Intellect 2001-2005, the Collected Columns Volume 1. And that's going to be available now in a 734-page hardcover. It's pretty expensive, so it's you might want to stick with the ebook. But for those who are serious book collectors or big fans in particular of my old World at Daily Universal Press column, you might want to pick it up. And the quality of the stuff that we do is very high. We do all case hardbound. I'll give you an example. This is actually one of the first ones we did, and this was one of the projects I was most excited about. There Will Be War. This is actually a omnibus edition. It's what is it? It's nearly 700 pages, and it's actually the original There Will Be War. The original There Will Be War. That was the cover of the original one, and There Will Be War Volume 2, which, in my opinion, is the best of the entire series. And so it's but this is the quality that we do. You can see it's the case. There's no dust jacket. It's the case hardbound. I just like that because it doesn't get wrecked anywhere nearly as easily. And so we decided to do that. We don't have any plan to do a YA section anytime soon. In fact, we're extremely busy trying to keep up with what we're doing, and so I don't think that we're going to get into YA anytime really soon. Yes, it sells very well, but I'm not really that terribly interested in more coming-of-age stories and more one girl, two boy love triangles. It's just not really what I'm into publishing. It's not what I'm into editing and so forth. Now, I'm just curious. So anyhow, definitely, if you're at all interested in what Castalia is doing, if you're at all interested in our books, we've got over 75 out now, and we've got probably 2 ebooks a month coming, 2 audiobooks a month coming out, and usually about 2 print books a month. So we're getting about 6 books a month out, and we've got a big announcement a week from Monday, which is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can guarantee you that it is going to be one of the most talked about science fiction books of the year. Guaranteed. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to talking about that. But for right now, like I said, sign up for the new releases book if you want to be able to take advantage of those 2-for-1 op deals. Probably we usually send out maybe 2 a month tops. Yes, I think I can guarantee that next week is going to be very, very controversial. As for the Mutiny in Space question, you'll be happy that Rod Walker is 80% done with. Look, don't guess at things. If I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you. Okay. It's 80% done, and so we'll probably have a new Rod Walker out. That's about as close as we get to YA. Yes, SJW always double down. Will only be ebook at first, but we'll probably get the paperback out much faster than we did the first time. The first time it was several months. We'll also get the audiobook out quickly. No, all our books are not on the online bookstore. All the Kindle Select stuff is on Amazon only. So we've got some on our bookstore. If you prefer EPUB, you can go directly there. If you just prefer to deal with us directly, you can do it there. That's great. Otherwise, yeah, they're on Amazon. Somewhere hardbound is coming. It's in the works. I would say probably 2 months would be my guess. So that's where we're at. And I mean, how many of you know? I'm kind of curious because one thing that's been clear is that a number of these folks, No Wither is coming later this year. John's going to finish up the next two. John's going to finish up the next two Dark Avenger Sidekick books, and then he's going to finish up No Wither. There's a question I just missed. The answer to it was yes, though. I'm not sure exactly what. I can't recall what the question was there, but I remember that it was yes. Yeah, isn't Missionaries awesome? Yeah, I think that's the best book we've published. I really do. I'm really, really happy about that book. Oh, yeah, we have no DRM on anything. We have no, none of our books have any DRM. Brings the Lightning is a Western, and the sequel to it is coming soon. In fact, I was just talking with Peter Grant today, and we expect to be publishing that in May. Owen Stanley is working on another novel right now. He wasn't intending to, but he said he didn't have any ideas. And so we talked for a while, and he actually came up with an idea that was so funny and brilliant that I was cracking up on the phone. And he said, well, you know, if it's that funny, perhaps I should write it. It's like, yes, you have to. So he's working on it, and that's great. Now, you know, because there's obviously some new people on these periscopes, you know, people that are not really familiar with what I do. How many of you don't even realize that I also write fiction? What I realize is that there's a lot of people who have no idea that I even do that. Yeah. So let me at least mention it for those of you. So this is the first one in the this is the first one in the fantasy series. This contains all the short stories that are in Selenoth as well. So it's kind of the novel was a bit of a failed experiment. I was going to try to write the entire thing, the entire plot, fitting the Pseudo-Aquinas argument, and so I didn't quite manage to pull that off. It's a good novel, and it laid a really solid foundation for the Selenoth, the Arts of Dark and Light, but it wasn't quite the brilliant intellectual masterpiece I was hoping that it would be. Although it did confuse the reviewer into thinking that Thomas Aquinas had actually written about elves having souls. So that was kind of funny. Yeah, it is amazing how many of especially in science fiction, how many of the authors, they're like 300-pounders. I'm not a fan of Nabokov, no. I'm much more of a Dostoevsky guy. And then this is the Throne of Bones paperback. You can see it's a big fat one. And the early edition of A Sea of Skulls is out. I was hoping to get A Sea of Skulls out in May, but that's not looking entirely likely, just because I've got to get SJW's Always Double Down done. It took me exactly 394 days to write A Throne of Bones, and so that one went pretty quickly. But although I think that we're changing the. I'm not totally happy with the way that we did the interior, and so it's you can't really see, but so we kind of came up with a slightly better interior layout that you'll see in our newest books, and the page counts will stay about the same, but I think it's going to be a little bit more easy to read. No, I'm not a Cormac McCarthy fan. I think his stuff is excessively nihilistic, and I'm not a big fan of the sort of Hemingway wannabes. That's what's I have to admit, it's a little bit embarrassing to admit. I don't do drafts. I don't do drafts, and I don't do outlines. I just, what you see is pretty much what you get. I don't have an editor either. This is just, it's kind of funny because on the one hand, it's impressive. Most people find it very hard to believe that a plot as convoluted and as long as A Throne of Bones can be something that's just, done seat of the pants style. I can keep track of everything in my head. What's disappointing about it is that I think that I would probably be a better, more effective writer if I could, get myself to do outlines and get disciplined in that way. But that's just not my style. How does China? That's a good question. Well, he is bad. I'm not talking about. I'm not judging the author. McCarthy may be a lovely man. I'm just saying that I don't enjoy. I mean, if you think about it, I like Mieville's style. I think Mieville is a wonderful stylist. The City in the City is fantastic. The one about the language with the aliens, I'm forgetting the name right now. That's absolutely brilliant. Probably one of the best science fiction novels published in the last 30 years. I would work with Mieville in a heartbeat. I even liked his crazy retelling of Moby Dick, although I didn't quite understand the point, but it was a lot of fun. I don't like. I mean, this may sound a little strange considering the violence in my own books, but I don't like books. I don't tend to like apocalyptic books. I don't tend to like, although I like Nick Cole's. So there's no hard and fast rule. I'm not saying that. I think Mieville's a much better writer than Kim Stanley Robinson. I liked a couple of Kim Stanley Robinson's books, but after like the Red Mars or whatever, I thought they got pretty tedious. But everybody has different likings for style. I mean, I tend to like flowery, pretty writers like Tanith Lee, like Edgar Allan Poe. Even though I don't write that way myself, I can't write that way, and I don't try to. And yeah, I mean, I like John Wright, obviously. And so, but we all have, what we can do versus what we like and what we admire are all different things. I tend to be, in general, not a fan of those who laud and like Hemingway. No, I don't like pulpy purple prose either. Like I said, I like genuinely. I tend to like stuff that's genuinely pretty but kind of dark. So I like Lovecraft. I love Tanith Lee. Tanith Lee is one of my favorites. I don't think I've ever read Peter Hamilton. I've heard both good and bad things about Blindsight or whatever. Lush is a good word for it. Nick Cole, for example, loves Hemingway, and his Old Man in the Wasteland is very, it's basically a recreation of Old Man in the Sea, and so. So anyhow, it's no, it's fine. This is just a casual one tonight, so nothing urgent to talk about other than, like I said, if you want to get on the new releases mailing list, you probably want to do so tonight. Oh, I think J.K. Rowling is horrible. I think she's excellent at creating characters, at sort of creating memorable caricatures and then she does a pretty good job with interpersonal relations. But no, I think Patrick Rothfuss is absolutely dreadful. I mean, he's unreadable, literally unreadable. I've tried 3 times to read The Name of the Wind, and it's just it sucks. I mean, the characters are annoying and incredible, and I found absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where you realize that a lot of the people reading it are retards. They're just not very intelligent, not very intellectually sophisticated people, and that's okay. There's a market for Britney Spears. I don't give a fuck about the Oscars, so just drop it. I mean, who cares? I mean, look at my library. Do you think I care about the Oscars? Are all the books and authors you love page turners? No, I wouldn't say so. It's kind of interesting. I wanted more than anything to be able to write like Umberto Eco. He's my favorite author still, or definitely one of them. And what I didn't realize until I learned Italian was that it was impossible to write like him, because the reason that his style is so unique is that it is Italian translated into English by an excellent translator. So the sentence structures and everything are peculiar because they're based on the Italian sentence structures. There's virtually no way that you could effectively emulate that, much less internalize it and do anything decent with it. So that was very freeing, very liberating to realize that. Yeah, George Martin is overrated. There's no question. I mean, I will say something right now that will infuriate a lot of people, but I am, in at least one significant way, a much better writer than George Martin. That sounds very arrogant, doesn't it? And I'm not talking about, a book being better. I'm not talking about, I mean, people have said that they think that my Arts of Dark and Light are better than A Song of Ice and Fire, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about technically. I'm talking about literary chops. And those of you who have read A Throne of Bones can back me up here. And here's what I'm talking about. How many times has George Martin tried to convince you that a character was dead that really isn't? How many times? I can think of at least 3 or 4. I mean, did you ever think for a second that Jon Snow was actually dead? Even though they tried to say, no, Jon Snow is really dead. And then of course they bring him back to life. We all knew it was. We all knew it was coming. We all knew that the whole Red God and so forth. We all knew that, and that wasn't the only time. He tried to pull it off several times. Yes, he did. He did a very good job of shocking people, both with the execution of Ned. The Red Wedding did not shock me. I did see that one coming. In fact, I was a little surprised that he gave it such a lame justification. The Red Wedding was not very well executed because there was absolutely no way that the young wolf was going to go and marry that girl. It's absolutely ridiculous. But and also the whole destruction, of the sparrow and everything was quite that was impressive. That despite the fact that you knew he's trying to shock people, he still managed to do something that did prove shocking. So I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm just saying that I can do it better. Now here's what I mean by that. Okay. Exactly. Now, here's the difference, okay? Everybody, almost everybody, thought that that character in the dragon scene was dead, right? You read Throne of Bones. How many of you that read it didn't think that you didn't think that he was dead? How many were surprised? Okay. Now, go back and look at that. Go back and look at that scene. Right? Did I cheat? Did I, in any way, deceive the reader as to what was happening? Or did I play it honestly and fairly? And that's what I mean by saying that, there's no question. There's no question in that regard, at least. I'm a much better writer than George Martin because he couldn't pull it off despite repeated efforts and despite bringing magic into it and all this sort of thing. That's bullshit. It's ridiculous. And, a better writer than George Martin doesn't have to do that. A better writer, it's just like being a magician. Magicians are doing things. The good magician manages to do things without cheating. He does things without cheating. He does it right in front of you, and yet he manages to, his sleight of hand is so good that he managed to distract your eye long enough that he can do the trick without you realizing how it's done. It's the same thing in writing. If you're going to, there's two ways to mislead a writer, or there's two ways for a writer to mislead a reader. One way is to cheat. You just don't give them any, you hide information from the reader. The way that it's done well is that you distract them with information that they think is one thing, but is actually another. And so, if you read, it's right in here. If you read A Throne of Bones, you will run. There is a scene in particular where you will think that something is happening, that one thing has happened, and then you'll find out that it didn't happen. And then, and it's not a big deal. It's not important. It just adds a little bit of drama. It just we writers have to do things to the shirt is clean. It was clean this morning anyhow. You got to keep in mind that the light here is a little weird. But the writer has to keep himself amused. And so, sometimes you have to do these sort of things. You don't have to do them, but it's a challenge. It's an interesting challenge. You wonder what you can do. I often put things in the books that are in there at a deeper level. And okay, I can give you my all-time favorite. Absolutely, yes, I'm wearing. Okay, this person is a dork. Let's just get rid of him. Anyhow, my all-time favorite twist is not actually a particularly good one, and it's actually one that I managed to steal in a way. It's a book called The Program Man, and it's a kind of pulpish. It's a pulpish book called by Jeff and Jean Sutton, and they made it public domain. So we actually publish it on our website, but I was, it's very outmoded in some ways, and so I decided to sort of, clean it up a bit, rewrite it a bit, make it a little less clunky. And then what I realized is that it would actually work better if I set it in my Quantum Mortis universe. And then I got carried away, and I ended up rewriting the entire book. And the thing that I was really happy about is that even the guy who is the biggest fan, literally the biggest fan of Jeff Sutton out there, he actually was kind enough to say that my rewrite of it was actually better than the original. So if you're interested, look up Quantum Mortis, A Mind Programmed. And, I'm saying this even though that is my book, the twist is the twist from the original book. And I will remember, I will remember always just the astonishment when I read that book the first time. It was just because, you thought the book ended and then all of a sudden just, the entire thing. And yes, it was kind of obvious afterwards, and yes, I was pretty young when I first read it, but still, that sensation of mind-blowing was fantastic. And so it was a lot of fun. I've been a little disappointed that people haven't been, I'm really grateful that people like Arts of Dark and Light so much. The fact that some people have compared it unfavorably, yes, unfavorably, but still they compared it to The Lord of the Rings and stuff is tremendously flattering, and I'm really happy about that. But and don't worry, I'm under no illusions that it's as good. But I'm a little bit disappointed that people haven't, more people haven't given Quantum Mortis a try, just because I think it's really fun. I think Sanderson's okay. I don't particularly like what he does. I don't read Chuck Tingle. The thing is, Vandermeer's the kind of stuff that he reminds me a little bit of somebody who wants to be like China Miéville but can't quite pull it off. I want to like his stuff, but I don't actually. It's one of those authors where I think it sounds great, and then I start reading it and it's kind of like, this is. It doesn't ever quite go anywhere or do anything, and so I probably need to read more. But I was very unimpressed with The Southern Reach. Well, are you talking about fiction? If you're talking about fiction, if you're talking about fiction, I think that I would probably start with Suma Helvetica, with the short stories. The best thing to do is start with something like The War Dog's Coin, and if you like that, then you'll probably like more of it. I'm not a stylist. My writing is very pedestrian. There's sort of 4 elements, and I think that style is my weakest element. I tend to do better with characters and with story and with world building, and so it really depends on what you like. I don't fault people who, they describe my writing as workmanlike. I think that's how I would describe it, and so. If you want literary pyrotechnics, read John Wright. But what's good about it is what I try to focus on and what I try to do is I try to make the reader feel like he's really there. And so, the stuff that the characters are doing and thinking and so forth. No, Hemingway's style was the exact opposite of workmanlike. Hemingway's style was highly, highly refined. Hemingway's style was cut everything out and then cut more of it out and then drain it of blood and strip it down to the bare minimum. My books are 900 pages. Obviously, I don't do that. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun writing the orcs. I think my orcs are. A number of people have said, your orcs are evil, but I would kind of like to be one. Most orcs, nobody ever would want to be those orcs. The orcs of Selenoth don't want to be anything else. They are unrestrained id, they're crazy, but the heck. Camera flipped for some reason. Anyhow, and so that's what I try to go for. Why do I write? Number one, because I enjoy it. It's an enjoyable outlet. Number 2, I like telling stories. And number 3, it helps me articulate what I'm thinking. A very smart girl once told me that if you can't write it down, your thoughts are not, if you can't write it down, your thoughts are not articulated, and then they're just feelings rather than actual thoughts. I usually just read one thing, and then if I like it, I read more. I tend to sort of binge read new authors, as you can see if you look at my current reading stuff. Yeah, except all my books don't involve coyote. I always think it's funny that people, every time they think they need to do like Indian stuff. Can writing be therapeutic? I have no idea. I don't think that talking about things or obsessing about things is a way to deal with them. So I think it's a good escape, though. So I think it can be therapeutic in that way. I haven't read very much of Uncertainty yet. I frankly haven't had much time for reading because I've been doing so much editing. I mean, I'm reading, but I'm reading for work. So, yeah, it's either Coyote or Wendigo. Well, anyhow, thanks for stopping by. Like I said, this was just sort of a random one. If you get a chance, sign up for the new releases. You know where to find it. It's on Castalia House on the right sidebar. Thanks for using Infogalactic News. We're only 5 away from hitting our goal for the burn unit. So if you feel like subscribing, great time to do it. Help us hit our monthly goal. And otherwise, thanks so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the blog. Have a good weekend.